idea of interest is actually very much intertwined with motivation. So the key idea is to propose a set of social cognitive variables or psychological variables that lead some people more interested in certain risk or scientific topic as compared to others, right? So at the very center of this model, this theoretical concept is actually coming from social psychology research, which is basically what's something called sufficiency principle. What the sufficiency principle basically suggests that people are going to exert a lot of effort, cognitive effort, paying attention to a topic until they reach a degree of judgmental confidence, to feel like, okay, what I know seems to be valid, and what I know seems to line up with what other people know or what the experts say. So the sufficiency principle is kind of at the core of this interest idea. Basically, people want to get information or think through those information to the point that they feel that it's sufficient to accomplish their processing goals, whatever that goals might be. That goal might be just satisfying your own cognitive need for information. As we know, right, people have different levels of need for cognition, for instance. Some people just want to know more about everything there is. But then it could also be for social reasons. Maybe you want to know something really, really well so you can better take care of your family, or you can talk more intelligently about the topic within your social circle. So within the RISP model, this information insufficiency idea basically is with something that really drives or delivers our interest for science and risk issues. So there are some issues with this measure, right? In several studies, we actually observed a pretty strong ceiling effects in which people feel that they want to know all there is to know about a topic, especially when it's an unfamiliar topic, such as climate change or cancer clinical trial, which was related to my dissertation research, in which we basically see everybody reports very, very high threshold because there's very low baseline knowledge. So in that situation, statistically, it could really run into difficulty in terms of how you really capture the meaning of this concept, right? You know, I think it's a mundane thing to say know your audience, but I think it's always good to assess that baseline knowledge to see what people actually already know about a specific topic, because that would really influence, you know, your subsequent strategy. You don't want to just bore people with the same old information they already know, especially with a lot of risk topics, you know, like climate change. Everybody knows certain things or believe that they know so much because they hear so much about it. But in the end, it's also a matter of identifying new angles to talk about familiar risk and issues that could probably trigger that sense of interest, or getting people to feel, oh, that's a new angle I haven't heard of, or, you know, what's that information insufficiency here that could potentially be a useful tool to develop campaigns or informational materials, right, to address those issues. So a couple of things you can do. If it's risk related, right, I think it's always important to look into risk perception, right? How, in terms of severity, susceptibility, in terms of their emotional reactions to the risk topic, you always have to think about those are at the very core of what triggers that information insufficiency, right? Because if you look at the overall model, those are the variables, they're the antecedents to information insufficiency. So I think it's always important to look into what constitutes risk perception, not only cognitively based on numbers and statistics, but also how people emotionally react to the risk topic. And then the other thing is the norm idea I mentioned earlier. You know, study after study, we see this one single variable seems to be very powerful in influencing how much people think they need to know about the topic, because we're all social beings. We don't just live alone. We don't just take care of our own innate cognitive need. A lot of it's really based on what other people expect us to know, right? So I think those two are key variables that will be very important to look into in terms of inducing greater insufficiency.